So, hello students. In the previous session, we were discussing about the advantages of the proxy wall, having the proxy wall, in the types of or the classification of firewalls. So, one was the packet filters, second was stateful inspection, and third one application level firewalls. So, we just see some of the practical issues for the next topic, that is practical issues in the firewalls, that is the security architecture of a medium size or large organization includes firewalls, proxy servers, VPN terminators, and intrusion detection and prevention devices. So we just see how exactly the firewall is being constructed when it comes to the practical things. Okay, so to understand or for understanding purpose, he has given one diagram where all the where all the firewall can be placed. Okay, so what all the other servers that are connected to this firewall, that will be seen. Okay, so just analyze, have a look over the diagram which shows you the firewall placement. Okay, so just check out where all the firewalls. So FW means firewall here, the annotation they have used. So that is FW1, FW2. So two firewalls are being placed, and also this the first one, border router, also it is also the firewall. Okay, and that is actually acting as a security guard between the internet and the here internet and the firewall here. Okay, so this is the first filtering will take place in the border router itself. So we first note that the firewalls help segregate or isolate the network into multiple security zones. Okay, so these firewalls are going to give you the security around the multiple security zones. So each firewall in the organization enforces some rules that control the transfer of packets between different security zones. So you can just see here, this is one zone. So DMZ stands for demilitarized zone. Okay, so one DMZ1, this is one particular section or the zone, and here another zone we have, and here another zone. Okay, so there are many zones here. So these usually, at least there will be three zones commonly. So one is the internet, and second is the region containing the publicly accessible servers. Okay, so here it is publicly accessible servers, which includes internet email server, internal proxy. So this is publicly used servers or publicly accessible servers. The third one is internal network. So this is internal network. Okay, so where internal DNS, application server, DB servers, etc., some of the workstations or individual user workstations are being connected to this firewall. So this is placed in between. So the firewalls are placed in between the particularly three zones. One is internet. Okay, and the second one is the region containing the publicly accessible servers, and third one the internal network also. And it may be more zones also, it can include more zones also, but for understanding purpose, in this diagram we have only three zones. Okay, three zones, network zones. Okay, so uh, here what exactly the firewall, where exactly the firewall is placed, that is the question. So the first is access router interfaces with the internet. So here access router, that is we just call it as border router. So one of the three walls, firewalls, the first is really a router. That is what I said, this is the very first router or the firewall which filters packets from the internet coming towards the other zones. Okay, so before coming to other zones, we have another firewalls placed here. So with some packet filtering capability, the border router will be placed here. So this is the access router interface with the internet. So it is connected to a stateful firewall, that is FW1. Okay, so which has three interfaces, Again, when it considered, one interface is the internet, the second is the screened subnet, and third one is DMZ2. That is, DMZ1 is nothing but the screen subnet, and this is the publicly accessible server, that is known as DMZ2. So this particular firewall is having the connection with the internet, the DMZ1 and DMZ2. So through three interfaces it has. So usually the firewalls that have more than two interfaces are called as multi-homed. So like we can call it as FW1 is a multi-homed firewall. So the zone connected to the right interface of FW1. So right of this FW1 is nothing but it's a screened subnet. So screened subnet, though it is more commonly referred to as demilitarized zone, that is DMZ. Okay, so it is labeled as DMZ1. And another one, this screen subnet has web server, email server. This is also publicly accessed network zone itself. Okay, and then uh, the zone between the firewalls FW1, FW2, okay, is really a DMZ2. So this DMZ2 is placed between FW1 and FW2. So demilitarized zones are so called because they often host servers that are accessible to the internet and also the internal network. So because they are accessible to the public, they are the most likely machines to be compromised in the entire network. So here, once a machine, see, we have for the DMZ, we have many machines that are connected here, internal servers and all. Okay, in between that firewall is connected. So here, once a machine in the DMZ is compromised, one single machine is compromised, the other machines may get infected. Okay, so that is the reason where we need to put the firewall here. So DMZ1 contains the publicly accessible servers. These include the web server, external email server, and DNS servers. And all incoming mail from the internet is received by this email server, which checks for virus signatures and the spam emails. Okay, that is one advantage keeping the firewall here. So the DNS server resolves the name of publicly accessible servers. However, some care should be taken to ensure that it doesn't contain address records of any of the internal machines. So here DMZ2 contains the internal email server, as you can see in the diagram. So this is the server that hosts the mailboxes of the company employees, like where the emails are going to be subtracted with the primary emails and the spam emails. So it handles the sending and receiving of the mail between internal parties. So it periodically checks for the connection to the external mail server, that is in this particular diagram it is DMZ1, to retrieve all the incoming email. So I'm talking about if there is any email exchange between this internal email server from DMZ to this external email server from DMZ1. So in this case, outgoing mail can be handled in several ways. Okay, from the internal network to the internet. So the internal mail server can set up an SMTP connection to a remote mail server to transfer the mail. So it has to use that SMTP connection. Then alternate thing is it can connect to the external mail server, that is DMZ1 in this diagram, and it can use it to relay all outgoing mails. So DMZ2 also contains an internal internet proxy server. You can just see here internal internet proxy server. So all internal users who wish to access external web pages can connect to this particular proxy. So we have different IP addresses here. So different machines are being connected. So here the proxy scans incoming web pages for virus signatures and objectionable content, which is not authorized one. So the finally the proxy also performs caching of the web pages. As I discussed in the previous session, it the main advantage of having the proxy is one is it uses caching of the web pages concept, where it can reduce the time, and also the also it can increase the performance of the system. So the internal network contains application servers, database servers, and user workstations. So here, all this, like what exactly the publicly accessible network can have, that I'm telling you. So it also has an internal DNS server. This DNS server is different from the external DNS server, that it provides mappings between the domain names of the internal machines. Okay. Where the different IP addresses can be assigned. Okay, the internal machines all have private addresses, so it is neither necessary nor desirable for third parties on the internet to be aware of the private addresses of the internal machines. So hence this DNS server is placed in the internal network itself. So a feature of the security architecture, which services such as DNS and email are split. That is, there is an internal DNS server as well as external one. Okay, so this is, we can have internal DNS and external DNS servers. Likewise, there is an internal email server and an external email server also. So generally no external connection should be allowed to the internal servers. So that is the care that should be taken by the administrator. So the connections in the reverse direction from the internal servers to hosts on the internet should either be forbidden or severely restricted. So depending upon the given policies, security policies, the firewalls are going to work accordingly. So this is about one practical issue where where we can discuss about how exactly the firewalls are being placed around the different zones. So in the next session, I'll be discussing another practical issue with the firewall configuration. Thank you.